Corporate expatriation and global mobility can be driven by a number of different factors, from growth opportunities in different geographies, mergers and acquisitions, or an implementation of new business strategies. An increase in global mobility requires additional attention from HR and finance departments. Some finance directors still cannot see past the costs associated with sending their employees on lengthy assignments, whilst others are more concerned with risk management and the importance of the assignment itself. In this episode of FDE TV, we speak with Martin Thaysen, CEO of Santa Fe, and David Cavanna, CFO for Europe at HSBC, about their personal experience in relocating for new career opportunities. We also talk with Richard Musty from Lloyds Banking Group, who looks at some of the aspects to consider when relocating. But first, we speak with Jean-Remi, the head of global mobility at Total Group, who explains why organizations need to have expatriates and what factors make up, in his opinion, the typical profile of a Total expat.
The typical profile is a male, even though we try to promote more female engineers abroad, but it's a male in the 40s, and he has a partner and possibly 2 kids. The latest reporting we do have is based on 4,700, so on which we do have 3,000 French nationals sent outbounds, and we do have, the difference is made up of third country nationals. When we are settling what we call upstream businesses, upstreams operation in Uganda, in Burundi, countries in which there are no experience of gas and oil production, you have to send your own resources. They are expecting you to train also their people. You are transferring at the same time your own competencies or knowledge, and we are also expected to deal with the communities locally to sustain them in many ways, making sure that we are accepted as respectful company making business in the best sense of the word.
So what are the main challenges organizations face when sending their employees abroad?
When you move overseas, it's really, really important that you plan before you go. You need to make sure you've got all of your affairs in order, your bank accounts. You need to consider what you're going to do with your property, but probably most importantly, you need to go and talk to a tax advisor so you can structure your affairs appropriately.
The time people can forget, let's say, to declare their taxes in one country is away. The compliance issue here is becoming an increasing concern for both the employer and the employees.
I think there are multiple challenges corporations go into when they try to manage global expatriate management and global mobility. One that has really accelerated up is actually compliance. And it's both compliance to company policy, but it's also very much compliance to various government regulations around the world. I think the other aspect that's really important is the talent management around the global expatriate management. It is expensive to relocate people around the world, and you have to do the right kind of expatriation for the right reasons and make sure you get a return on that. And finding that right balance of keeping costs at bay, but actually keeping employees efficient and retaining the employees, I think is a difficult balance to strike. And with the different generations now relocating with different demands and expectations, I think that equation becomes even more complex to manage for companies.
Compliance or tax implications are certainly some of the biggest concerns for organizations operating on an international scale. However, the process of issuing visas and work permits can take up a lot of time and effort.
I think one thing that's often underestimated is also the challenges and the work that goes into actually getting a visa and a work permit in place. Often a laborious process, often very bureaucratic, and often very time-consuming to go through.
Visa and immigration might become, in certain instances, a big problem. So we may select one of our employees designing a package, and the guy is ready to move with the family, but it takes 6 weeks, 3 months, to get the visa and the proper documentation to allow all the family to move abroad. So you have to find an interim solution, or you have to find, ways of getting things done locally.
When relocating, it is always important for companies to make sure that the whole process is as smooth and as fast as possible, ensuring that employees are able to adapt to their new environment quickly before starting their new role. So what do companies look for when partnering with a supplier of expatriate management services?
We are expecting them to comply with all our expectation, contractual expectation for sure, to provide us with a service level agreement KPIs, related KPIs, to get a transparent relationship. So we do want to get and to know where are the business with them and to have a long-term partnership. So key account management, doing their job in a transparent and fair manner is really key to us. I can name two of those, Santa Fe relocation and corporate executive relocation. So we have a partnership for the last years and it's moving on. So we are quite happy with them.
I think there's a couple of different aspects I think are really important to make sure that an expatriation can flow. The first one is really about the policy of the corporate, so that they understand what's the policy to apply for what kind of expatriate and match the purpose of the expatriation with the type of expatriate they have and the benefits in the program that's rolled out. The second part is really about the planning and making sure that the expatriation is planned well. The more uncertainty you can take away from the assignee, the more you can make sure that they can see the logic in how everything is going to flow. The better their experience will be and the better they will be enabled to focus on what they need to do work-wise. I think a third aspect is really understanding that often it's not just one assignee, it's often a family that's going through significant change. So having people in the right locations that actually understand that change and can work with it, I think is critical to support a relocation.
Personal experience of assignments abroad can be a great eye-opener, especially when it comes to understanding the difficulties that employees have to address, work-wise as well as family-wise.
When I relocated for Santa Fe, I moved from Shanghai to London. I think getting all of the practical things in place when you have children going into a new school, a wife that's leaving her job, it's just a stressful situation to go through. It used to be an assumption that when you move to London, it's a well-developed location, you don't need any help, you're on your own. But the bureaucracy and the processes you go through are probably maybe even more difficult in London than they are in Shanghai. And it's much easier to get things done in Shanghai with buying services. I think the short answer is you need all the practical things to work to take the stress off of the period of relocating your family so you can focus on doing your job.
When I was offered the role of CFO for HSBC China, I leapt to the opportunity of working in an environment which I'd previously enjoyed a great deal. But despite having travelled to China 20 years before, I could not but be amazed and impressed by the degree of change that had happened over that 20-year period. There were, however, a number of challenges, particularly relating to establishing myself within China and forming communities and engagements. HSBC understood the requirements of the country and the specifics that those requirements had on me. I think having the engagement of your employer and helping you out to find accommodation, to provide you with an indication of where to look for basic necessities, where is the supermarket, what injections do I need if I want to go there, all of those kind of things are very important and make the whole process a lot easier than if you were trying to do that yourself.
So how will the expatriate management space evolve in the years to come?
The need of ensuring and balancing the assignments output with the cost that the business can support is really at the edge of our reasoning today because of the economic downturn in the oil and gas industry, obviously. So we try to do the best of our resources and we try to segment and we shuffle maybe our policy. So we try to do even better with our existing resources, and maybe we will develop a new jack in other part of the world. But it's part of our way of doing things. How to be more effective in the expatriation world.
So I think there's a number of changes that are going to happen in the global mobility and I think from that perspective also the globalization space. The biggest change is probably that the younger generation's becoming much more mobile, much more flexible, but increasingly also raising demands on what they then expect delivered from corporations. I think technology will profoundly change how relocation is done, both on a practical perspective, but also the support assignees get throughout an expatriation. One trend that is also changing, and I expect will be even more profound going forward, is shifting a bit of the focus from purely cost management to actually looking at return on investment, both from a people and talent perspective, but also from a financial perspective. The last part of development that I expect is significant growth. It's going to be much more in employees relocating on their own, employees seeking out jobs in different locations of the world, but actually still need the corporation's support. People don't see the borders anymore. If there's an interesting job in New York, they will go for it. They're not limited by the geography to the same extent as we were just 5 years ago.
Companies who have employees who are globally mobile are very sophisticated in this. I think we'll see some further development in the market as we see more entrepreneurs coming into the UK and more people running their own businesses where they find it attractive to do business here in the UK, which is great news because it's bringing inward talent to the UK. It's helping Britain prosper and it's helping the economy as well.
With the evolution we have witnessed in the expatriate management space in the last few years, driven by globalization and corporate expansion, it is safe to say that we have come a long way, from expatriation being an exclusive event to a mass expatriation of often thousands of people within one organization. Bearing this in mind, there is a whole new set of challenges that companies have to take into account when sending their talent abroad, from tax implications and compliance through to visas administration, as well as making sure their employees are safe and healthy in their new environment.